Okay, it is Sunday, the 2nd of April, 2023. It is just gone 7 p.m. UK time and it's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is in conversation with, I've done a couple of these so far, but this is one with someone called Shaw Hargett, and he runs BUMRUSH45, which is an online record store specializing in 45s. He's also organized a raid event on the US version of 45s, 45 day, because in the US the date and time is slightly different to the UK, and that's happening on Wednesday of this week. And again, I'm taking part in that, so that's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of great DJs taking part in that, and so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about 45s. Probably going to get a bit nerdy about all that, but without further ado, here is Shaw. How you doing?
Doing good, man. You?
Yeah, I'm really good. It's been a busy old week, and this is the second show today. I did one this morning with Arlo from the Sunday Get Down, who's one of our youngest 45s DJs. He's only 13, but a one to watch. You may have caught him already on Twitch, but if not, then definitely check him out. Yeah, no, I thought it'd be good to have a chat. Obviously, we've sort of connected through Twitch, through the Twitch streets, and through some of the other 45s DJs. So I thought it'd be good to have a chat, especially as you're organizing this event next week, which is going to be great fun. Lots of amazing DJs. The lineup is superb. I'm very honored to be part of it. But I always ask my guests, because I'm interested to know how music got into them and how they became passionate about music. So let's go to the beginning. So when was it that you first became aware of music, and who was it who introduced you? Was it family, friends, siblings? Who was it?
Yeah, man, I think my musical influence, I think I got a bit from my family, I guess, is what drew me in a little. My dad used to play various records back in the day. I was born in basically the end of the 70s, so mid 80s, early, getting towards the 90s, I'm starting to listen to stuff, and my dad was playing, Hall and Oates and
Right.
and Billy Joel and that kind of thing, and then he had some of the 70s rock stuff, and then I started getting into, it was actually, and this is really weird, I at about 6 maybe, there was some advertisements in the US
Right.
with California Raisins.
Yes.
who heard it through the grapevine, right?
Yes.
And so at like 6 years old, I wanted my parents to buy me a Marvin Gaye record.
Amazing.
Yeah, so like that's kind of got me into like some soul stuff a little, and it was just kind of listening to a mix of things. And then probably about 11, 12, which would have been early 90s, got into a little hip hop, and it just kind of like took over my life.
Cool. Well, let's pause it there for a minute. Those California Raisins have got a lot to answer for, because I remember that, and I think anyone of a certain age definitely remembers that. But it was great that they were introducing such good music. It could have been really cheesy, it could have been really rubbish music, but it was a great record. And was your dad collecting records? I assume late 70s, probably still records. Yeah,
still had some records, mostly his stuff from the mid 70s, late 70s, early 80s, and then that kind of started phasing out a bit at that point.
And are we talking albums, or was he sort of
I still have like a little stack of them. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really cool that you've still got them, because what 70s, we're talking, well, it's almost 50 years now. 45, 50 years, it's crazy, isn't it? Yep. Okay, cool. And at that stage and at that age, is he letting you sort of use the records, or is it just the case of you listening to what he's playing?
Just kind of listening, just kind of listening to stuff, just kind of getting that musical influence. I didn't really get into the vinyl and that kind of thing until later. So just kind of help set that foundation. And then once I kind of got into this little soul realm, I was like, oh, okay, I like some of the more soulful type stuff.
Yeah.
That's what was attracting me. And then probably about 91 is when the hip hop was like, what is this?
Yeah. So tell us through that then. So what hip hop were you listening to at that stage?
Yeah, so I started listening to, like, well, of course, early 90s, all the hip hop was what we kind of now consider that old school sound, non-commercial, really. So the Tribes, the De La's, that kind of thing. Nas came along, like that kind of realm. I'm like 12, 13 years old, and just kind of listening to that stuff and trying to figure a way. Once I got in it, hell, it was probably only a few months, and I'm like addicted, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to, I'm not eating lunch at school so I can save my money to go to the record store that week, like that kind of stuff. So yeah, me and
Wow,
my
the addiction hit hard from an early age
hard,
then. Yeah.
hard. Me and my
It,
homie would save up our money, and then we'd go to the record store and we would buy, that at that time something hot was dropping every week, like 2 or 3
yeah.
albums. So we would save up and it'd be like, all right, I'm gonna get these two, you get these two, and we'd kind of go from there, and we had everything.
And from a cost point of view, obviously we all know what 45s and albums cost nowadays, but back then, you say you're saving your lunch money, how much can you remember how much these sort of albums were costing you?
Yeah, and we were getting CDs mostly, as I recall.
Yeah, it's about the right time, isn't it?
$12,
Four.
$13.
$13, yeah. So
Something
back
like
when the UK pound was quite strong, that probably would have been about £5. Obviously, it's very different now. But yeah, and interesting that you referenced that age as well, the golden age of hip hop. I was talking to, as I said to Arlo this morning, he's 13, and he's really into the hip hop from that time as well, and he likes Tribe and Biggie and all of that. And I said to him, is there any sort of new hip hop you're really into? And he's like, well, not really. So it's interesting that it stood the test of time, both for people of our age, but also the youngsters. It just shows how good that hip hop was at the time.
My 15-year-old is an addict as well now.
Yeah, for old school.
Yeah, old school.
That's amazing.
We went to a show last year. He was like, "Hey, Dad, can you take me to the Nas show? The Nas Wu-Tang show?" Like, yes, I can.
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing, is it? And I think they are the youngsters now are lucky. One, that they've got parents who are into hip hop who can sort of pass it down, but also if they want to, they can go onto Spotify, go onto YouTube, buy these records and listen to all of this stuff. Now, back in the day, like you say, you had to save your money. It wasn't that easily accessible. It's a very different world we live in, isn't it?
Exactly. We didn't have transportation, right? And
yeah,
Mom wasn't taking me to the store to buy the record that had the explicit lyrics, on the front. So like I was saying, my homie and I would save up our money, and then normally one of us, to be honest, a lot of times one of us would skip like our last class of the day,
right,
and like run off campus, and like a mile away or so was the record store, and we would skip class to go on Tuesdays, which is when stuff came out in the US.
Okay,
records, get back to school in time to ride the bus home. Like that was like our thing, and there was a couple times I've walked like 3 or 4 miles home just because I needed to get that record, and Mom was not taking me for that.
It's amazing. It's sort of not exactly like that, but I remember being at school, and during lunchtime I wouldn't go to lunch because I would then go to the record shop, buy whatever, and it would be a Monday here. There'd always be a new release on a Monday, and I would go in during a lunchtime, buy whatever record it was, and then come back for the afternoon sessions. I've got a little point from Air Adam here, which is quite interesting. He doesn't think that 30-year-old records then were as relevant to us in the 90s as the 90s stuff is to modern listeners. Because I guess to us in the 90s, it would have been 60s music. And yes, I don't know. I don't remember maybe the Doors was probably later though, wasn't it? I was trying to think if I suppose the Doors might be late 60s. So I was into the Doors a little bit then. But generally speaking, I think, hip hop now from the 90s is much more relevant to kids than
absolutely.
60s music was to us at that age.
Right. Well, I think also if you look at the 60s was almost the start of anything.
Yeah.
Like with that soul, that rock, that whatever, like there's not a whole lot pre-60s that's something anyone listens to anymore that I know of. And so I think now you have about 60 years of to go back, right? So going back 30 isn't really as far as it was back when we were in the 90s. It was like going back to the dawn of solid music. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
I think that kind of thing, you know.
It's interesting. I mean, there is, yeah, there's sort of little groups and niches who do play 50s music, but it's less and less. You know, I mean, I've got, you know, within my 45s collection, I've got a few, but not many, and I don't play them that often. It'll be, you know, the odd one here and there, but yeah, it's very, very true.
Well,
Okay, so that's
reissues now too.
Sorry, say that again.
Lots of reissues now too.
Yes, yes, definitely, and obviously
accessible
popcorn labels and things like that. So it is a lot more available. So that's obviously from starting to collect records. How did that progress into, and at what age did you then sort of start getting into sort of DJing?
Yeah, so that was early 90s. You know, I went through that whole golden era of hip hop. 96, 97, I'm in high school, like getting ready to get done with high school. I'm here. The big thing, we had college radio stations. So you've got your commercial stations and your college stations, right? And here the college stations could play whatever. It's the cool guy in college that's DJing on the air. Yeah. And I'm listening with my freaking tape, like trying to catch that new song out, and you know, doing that kind of thing. And I got where like all the new stuff was coming out that way. That's how we heard stuff. You either saw the video or you heard it on college radio. That's pretty much how we heard it. So fast forward 4 years. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's around the same sort of time as MTV, isn't it? Sort of getting going, isn't it? So
we were staying up late to make sure we watched the MTV Raps and that whole thing, and just trying to hear whatever was new. But if you already had a video put together and things, then your song had already been at least probably played a little, you know. So college radio were breaking records that we wanted to hear. Maybe not the, you know, this is like 96, 97. The radio commercial stations are getting more more commercialized with the hip hop and that kind of thing. So we went to hear like the underground stuff, right?
Yeah.
So yes,
it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting what you're talking about, college radio, because that's not really something that exists here in the UK or has done. And I've spoken to other guests from the US and Canada and other places, and it seems to be quite a big thing. And obviously each college, each university had quite an important radio station. You know, here, I think universities have the odd station, but it's nothing like what you have over there. So it's interesting to hear that was making such a big impact.
Yeah, and you had, you know, and it was a little before that, but during the golden age, you had like Stretch and Bobbito. Yeah, it was basically college radio in New York.
Wow.
And so, you know, friends would bring back mixtapes. That was a big influence as well. I was in North Carolina, is where I grew up.
Okay.
And so I'd have a friend go to New York and he'd come back with a few mixtapes and we'd make copies and, you know, pass them around. And that's kind of how we got that fixed as well. So then
again, it's a different world, isn't it? A different world, isn't it? Cassettes and recording cassettes and passing them on, you know, so different now, isn't it?
Yeah, and it actually made me think a minute ago, the way we were affording a lot of our music, I'm not going to front. We would buy the CD the day it came out. Yeah. I would take it home, and the next day I would have dubs.
Right.
For a few bucks, you could get a dub, and then I could go buy the next record next week, you know?
Yeah.
Just ways a 14, 15-year-old kid is trying to make money, you know? So then when I got out of high school, I then wanted to do what? I went to college. What did I want to do? I want to be on college radio. You know what I mean? And so I started, went to the radio station and started doing college radio in 98. And that's what kind of progressed into the DJ side as well. Cause now I want the records. I want, you know, and the college I was at did not have much hip hop at all.
Okay.
And so I basically started the hip hop. You know, we did like I think it was Friday nights was all hip hop stuff. So we started it like we weren't getting records, none of that stuff. So I got them to buy turntables. I got the labels to start distributing the records to us. Cause back in those days, the labels would send you the records to play on the radio.
Yeah.
And they would send you basically doubles of everything.
Wow.
Once we got there. So every day the radio station, I would get all these records. Well, the radio station doesn't want the records. I'm the only one that plays the records. So I get the records. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
So I mean, I think when I started finally going through them, I think I was up to like 10,000 8, 9, 10,000
Wow.
singles, albums, whatever. And, that I eventually had to kind of part with a bit. But that was kind of what was transcending,
Yeah,
vinyl
yeah.
the
Why were
thing.
they sending doubles? I'm interested. Is it just
Well,
because they knew you'd
DJ.
play it a lot, and so they'd
Yeah,
have
it would be the
for
singles.
DJing?
It would be the singles. So they would send you doubles because you wanted to rock the instrumental, or
Yeah,
you wanted to flip back and forth, whatever you wanted to do, you
yeah, yeah.
could. They sent basically doubles of everything. They would send the clean version and the dirty version.
Right. Okay.
Like, it was massive. I mean, it was that time frame, everything was getting pressed. It was just the
Yeah.
big thing here in the US. It was like the DJs, we got to get these plays. Everybody wants vinyl for DJing only. I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
it sold them a whole lot. And so they kind of did that, and so that kind of got me into the vinyl and the DJing and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, because I guess at that time, like you're saying, you were buying CDs from a young age.
right.
I guess it's only the DJs who were then really buying vinyl.
Mhm.
And again, we get to that a little bit later, but obviously then when Serato comes out and digital DJing, and then obviously vinyl sort of starts, sort of going to a bit of a downturn. It's interesting how it's sort of come back up again.
Right.
Cool. So you're obviously DJing on the shows. Are you
Yeah.
gigging as well? Are you putting on events?
Starting to gig some. I'm either DJing, or I've got a couple DJs that were way better than me. So they would, at one point I had a DJ Sound Machine. I don't know if folks have heard of
Okay.
Sound Machine, but he was old school DJ. He would be DJ, I would host. We did a lot of these different things. I did bounce between 3 different college stations down there. Sometimes I was in school and sometimes I wasn't actually in school, but we'd find a way,
Skipping school again.
Yeah, yeah. So started doing that, and I started going to shows. There was a spot we had back in North Carolina called Cat's Cradle, in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I started seeing there was some hip hop shows once in a while. So I was like 18, 19. So I started going to the shows. I end up meeting the promoter. He's kind of like, "Hey, don't really want to do this all that much." And next thing you know, I'm like 19, 20 years old, and I'm like the hip hop promoter in town. So that's kind of where it
Wow.
all went. So I was like the DJ doing some radio stuff, but then I was also working with the local venue to put on hip hop shows.
And I guess it sort of goes hand in hand, doesn't it? You're on the radio promoting the show, you're at the show promoting the radio, and you're building up like we do on here. You're building up a community, aren't you?
Exactly. And it was a rock club. So what does the rock club not know anything about hip hop? So
Yeah.
they would basically, "Hey, this guy named KRS-One wants to come to town. Can we bring him?" That like that's basically what we were going through. And it was that time where the old school acts were getting to the point where they could play clubs.
Okay.
Because they were no longer this like huge thing, right? Like it wasn't like the mid-90s where they're playing these bigger spots. They're starting to like play these clubs, and you had the underground scene, the Jurassic Fives, the Dilated Peoples, the those type of guys that are also hieroglyphics that are trying to come through town. So like we would basically, from 99 to 2011, that's basically what I also did on the side, was help bring all these acts to town, and it kind of turns into this whole thing, right? Like I'm just kind of living it all.
Sounds like an amazing time. And I guess the other thing with the US, it's vast. It's so big that a tour that one of these acts could do like maybe even 100 shows, maybe even more, 100 shows.
At least 50, 60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas you come to Europe and UK, however big you are, you might be able to do like maybe 5 or 6, big cities in the UK, and then maybe the same. But I guess for them going on tour, by the time you got to the end of the tour, were they starting then again the next tour, next album, and sort of
they kind of switch it up a bit, they come every year or two. But you can make your, we're far apart, but we're close enough where you can do a day, you don't have to have all these off days. You can hit something every night. So you're doing 60 shows, you're making some good money.
Definitely. Yeah.
Just doing little 300, 500, 600 person clubs, So started doing that. That then, of course, got me into the local scene as well.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing the radio and you're doing the shows, then all of a sudden the local, I'm getting opening acts. I'm starting to deal with like people that want their stuff played on the radio, that kind
Yeah,
of
of
thing.
course.
Started kind of helping put on little local shows, kind of just working with our different artists in town. And it just so happened we had a bubbling local scene in the Carolinas at that time as well. This is like 2000, 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
So yeah, so kind of was doing that thing and working with those guys.
Yeah. And again,
And
it comes back to community, doesn't it? Because like you say, you've got a platform and you're able to help people in your local community and acts and potential DJs and artists coming up. And it just builds and builds and builds, doesn't it?
exactly.
So tell us a little bit about the sort of local acts that
So
you were involved in.
we had some different artists that were in North Carolina at the time. I worked extensively with a cat named Kazi who put out a couple records, Kaze, not the
Yep.
I, the West Coast Stones Throw Kazi. Superstition. And then we ended up having a crew called the Justice League.
Okay, yeah.
In the area, which was basically what folks now know as Little Brother, Median, Legacy, the Away Team, all these different guys. So, kind of came with them. So yeah. And then I heard their stuff and I'm like, this is not local. This is not something that's only needs to be here, and so we started kind of helping folks spread out a bit and get their records out.
So talk us through that then. So obviously you're able to play stuff on the radio, you're able to play stuff in your local clubs. How did you go about sort of getting it to a wider audience?
Yeah, so I mean, the internet also is starting to bubble a bit more at this time.
Yeah, what year are we talking? Probably
we're talking 2001, 2000.
Yeah, I guess it's just sort of getting going, isn't it? Really,
so it's kind of like getting it where it's like we've had internet for a little while, but it's now starting to be message boards and these types of things. So we had some different message boards that we dealt with. We had like a kind of local one that kind of got a bit bigger called The Lawn. We had OK Player. So these different message boards that folks were dealing with and sharing information, right? And so now all of a sudden I'm finding out about the cool act that I've never heard of in California or in New York or wherever, even though they've never even pressed up anything, and so I had this Little Brother record. Those were my dudes. So I basically, from doing radio, I knew all these labels in New York. So I go to New York one week for a conference and basically start hitting all these labels up that I know, like, hey, I got this. There's this group you need to hear, So probably did 10 to 15 meetings that week where I basically was just going in to play them the record and see what they thought and see if anything would come of it.
Yeah.
And 90% of them were, wow, this is really good, but they sound too much like Black Star. That's what I kept getting.
Okay. Right.
Two rappers over these cool beats. Okay, yeah, we already have like this up here. It's kind of like you're from North Carolina, all the hot stuff's in New York. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. So I can see that.
Fast forward a few weeks, a couple months maybe, and one of my homies from out west, Ian Davis, who was working at ABB at the time, hits me up and is like, "Hey, I heard this song on OK Player from this group called Little Brother. What's the deal? Do you know these guys?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's my guys. Let me get Fonte to send you a demo." Call Fonte, "Yo, hey, I need you to send the album to these guys." So they send it over. About a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, I'm like, "Hey, how'd everything go?" He's like, "Yeah, they're gonna put something out." Well, at this point, ABB's never put anything out except for singles. So I'm like, "Oh, which record?" They're gonna put the album out.
Cool.
Okay, so it just that kind of started it, and so at that point, it's just my guys. Like, we're not in it for money. We just want to put good music out.
Yeah.
They're starting to do their thing now, so now they're starting to work with ABB a little. My guy ID out west that's with ABB also does some college radio stuff as well. He knows what's coming out. And so, for example, he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, did you just get that Nas package that just came in?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You saw what's in it, right?" I'm like, "Wait, hold on, what?" And it's the acapella to Godson. So
Wow. Let me just solo that, and you can hold that up.
yeah. So this is actually, I'm pretty sure this is the actual copy that was used.
Wow.
But yeah, this is the Nas acapella. So I call Ninth up. Yo, I just got the Nas acapella. You might want to mess with this, you know?
Yeah.
The record over to him, and the end of the weekend, I call him up. I'm like, yo, did you put something together? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, which song did you remix? He's like, I remixed the whole shit. I'm
Awesome.
like, what? Like 3-4 days, you know? So
Yeah.
Little Brother's doing their thing. The album's starting to come out. I believe, I can't remember if it was out or it just come out. So next thing you know, Hip Hop Site, they work out a deal with Hip Hop Site. And I think I got it right here too.
We sure are getting gems in this interview, Adam.
And it becomes,
let's have a look at that. Hold on.
God's Stepson.
Yeah. Wow.
So I don't know, I know that it's made its rounds back in the day. So yeah, so stuff like that, and that was kind of just the scene, we Edition started putting out some records. The Justice League was kind of their thing. They were all working together to get stuff out through different means. And then my dude Kazi, I put this record out with Brick. This is Kazi and Ninth Wonder, Spirit of 94.
Yes.
So this was on this was on Brick, Vintage Music and Brick, which Vintage Music was my short run label. So we were doing that kind of stuff. This was 2005 when we dropped this. So 2002, 3, 4, 5, that kind of time frame stuff is kind of bubbling up and getting out there. Little Brother's making a hell of a name for themselves at that point. So
yeah, Air Adam saying he's got the single with Locked in Chains on it.
That's right.
There it is.
There it is. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that must be amazing,
it's cool.
to start from, getting into hip hop from a young age and it being such a big thing, to then having your own label and putting out music from your friends, and good music that's being respected.
It's fun. And it's not paying the bills, you know what I mean? It's covering itself. It's just like with the shows. Oh, you're doing hip hop shows. Yeah, I do a show or two a month. Like it's not this huge thing. So I still got a gig, still got a day gig and that kind of thing. And
yeah. I think it's only the massive artists that sort of really make any huge money out of this, isn't it? The rest of us, the vast majority do it for the passion and the love. And if you can make a couple of bucks and buy some records, great. But it's still quite underground,
right? Like Little Brother got to where they could tour and live like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's only certain cats that can do that. So we were just trying to figure out whatever we could do to cut costs. A couple of the homies, Kazi, and my one of my guys, DJ Forge, who was putting some stuff out with us, got jobs at the airline so that they could fly for free. So
that's clever.
Fly them to wherever to do a show. Like, I mean, it was just about getting the music out there and spreading it, So so that was kind of the deal in the 2000s, the early 2000s. Fast forward a little. Of course, I've got to have a day job to sit and pay the bills. I start getting a little better day jobs where it's like, no, I can't go, So
that's the problem.
I can't go now, that kind of thing. So eventually I'm doing some shows. I'm still doing the radio some, but I'm not really like in it as hard. I'm still collecting. I'm still, getting the records and doing all that thing. But now I'm, getting the family and all that kind of thing. So it starts slowing down a bit. And eventually I have to back out, some of those things. So
how did that, because I mean, this isn't a mental health talk show, but we do talk about mental health a lot. At that time, how did it feel having to sort of pull away from the music You know, was it a difficult decision, or was it just, okay, I'm getting older, I've got a family, I've got responsibilities, it's just the way it sort of
Yeah,
goes?
it's somewhat, you know, it's
Yeah,
definitely hard. It's like, you know, you got to figure out your responsibilities and figure out what's going to do it. And, you know, do you do this thing or do you do that thing, you know, and which
yeah,
way are you putting your effort, you know? So 2011, I got a job to move out of town.
okay,
That's when it kind of, I had to back off a bit.
yeah,
We moved up towards the DC area and I was no longer doing shows. I was no longer DJing. Um, and I really didn't have a ton of time for it at that point. So I'm still
sure,
getting records. I'm still, you know, buying stuff, but not really involved in the scene, you know, and that was hard. You know, I missed it.
yeah,
Uh, and I know when we get there, I mean, that's something that I've loved the last little bit now that I'm getting back in
yeah,
is
yeah,
just connecting with like-minded folks and getting to know people through the music and things like that is what I always missed, you know. And the only time I would really get it elsewhere, once I did leave the scene, is when you would go into your mom and pop record store, you know,
yeah,
and you'd at least get it in a little portion while you're digging through some crates, you talking to the guys, and you know. But other than that, it wasn't really a thing, you know. So yeah, it's definitely been helpful lately to
yeah.
have this kind of dialogue and to meet with folks like yourself and just
So
um,
you're still buying music and you're still buying records throughout this time, because that doesn't, well, some people do stop, don't they? Some people just say, right, that's it. I'm going to sell my vinyl collection, and I know a lot of people did back in the
I
day.
sold a lot.
But you kept quite a lot as well,
I,
or
I kept a small. I sold a lot.
yeah,
Then I've now bought most of it back. Um,
probably for
but
twice the
it
price.
was like, hey, you start selling some, and you're like seeing that money, and you're like, oh, yeah, I need to. All right, and, you know,
Yeah,
I'm like, man, maybe I shouldn't have done that. You know, definitely sold all the 12 inches. I probably have 10. Other than the ones I put out, I probably have 12 inches that aren't albums.
okay,
So
okay,
I at least said I can't. This is too much. You
yeah,
know, I have a very small room of records now. This is almost like a big closet. Um, I had a full bedroom that was like floor to ceiling, you know, like out of control. And yeah, it was just that's too much. And you know how it is when you move. Oh my god.
yes. It's just, yeah, boxes and boxes and boxes of records, isn't it? And especially if you're, I mean, I haven't had to move too many times, but I know people who move regularly, and it's just a nightmare. You know, it's just too much. Hence, one of the reasons why a lot of people now are moving into the 45s, because it is less. However, you still collect 45s. You know, it still sort of grows. Okay, well, let's sort of go into that. So obviously, so you're at the stage where you're not, you're still buying records, but you're not sort of DJing, you're not
Right.
sort of doing the shows.
Just just
Does
buying
that,
wax. Just yeah. Just whatever I like, you know. And to
yeah,
be honest, it's still mostly old stuff. Just getting it back or getting a better copy
yeah,
or whatever have you. Um, moving companies are the best. Yes. Yeah.
yes, removal company, yeah, and he only had a couple of thousand. So there's obviously this period of time where you're not involved that much, and obviously you've sort of, you know, referred to it. So you then get back into it relatively recently, is that right?
Yeah. So I mean, I was still buying. You know, I would say it's probably been 5 years, maybe. And to
Okay,
be honest, I ran across shout to Jim Sharp.
Jim
I
Sharp,
ran
yeah.
across like a Jim Sharp 45.
Okay,
And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like,
yes,
and I think that's what got me back in
yeah,
was going, wait, this stuff's available? Wait, it's only available in 45 and there's only a few hundred copies.
yeah.
Okay, I need this. And I need this one. And I need this one. And it just kind of started ballooning from there, you know?
Yeah, well, let's pause there. So how did you come across that? And did you know Jim Sharp as a producer before that?
No, had no idea. Trying to remember how I came across it. I have no idea. And I don't even remember which record it was.
Yeah,
Uh, but I remember hearing that and then digging down a rabbit hole and realizing there was more of that.
yeah,
And so I started buying stuff. And there's no, you know, none of that stuff is in the US. None of that stuff
yeah,
is in the US at all.
yeah.
So I'm buying from overseas. from wherever, Australia, Japan, Europe, wherever. And yeah, so I'm just buying and buying, and I'm buying my stack and I'm paying, the same amount of paying for the vinyl, I'm paying for the shipping and that kind of
Yep.
thing. So for a couple years, I would basically I'd be like, I want that record. So I'd buy 3 or 4 copies, and then I'd sell the
Yep.
copies I didn't want. I would sell on Discogs to help cover the shipping.
Yeah.
That's basically what was going down. And so a little over a year ago is when we started kind of getting into it a bit heavier. And more stuff keeps coming out. It's like it's never stopping now, right?
Yeah.
So I buy a bunch of stuff. I finally figured out the Japan method, and I've started getting a lot of stuff from Japan. So I get a bunch of stuff from Japan, and I start having to flip some of it on Discogs. And this dude buys a whole bunch of stuff from me, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, and I'm packing it up. I'm like, that name sounds familiar. And I realize it's a dude that used to work at Tommy Boy like 20 years ago that I dealt with when I was doing radio.
Okay.
Shout to Al Lindstrom. So I hit Al up and I'm like, hey man, I don't know if you remember me, but we used to deal with each other like 20 years ago. Looks like you're into these 45s like me. How about whenever I make an order, I reach out and let you know where I'm buying from. You let me know if you want anything and I'll grab your stuff too and we'll split it up. Oh yeah, cool. And so we did that for about a month and he hits me up and he's like, hey, I got 2 more guys that want to be in this.
Amazing.
Okay. So next thing you know, I'm buying for 15 people.
Right. Yeah.
And so at that point I was like, there's obviously a market here.
Yeah.
So let me look into making this official,
Yeah.
And we were paying retail and splitting all these shipping costs and all these things. And so that's kind of what happened to transcend into the shop.
Yeah. Well, let's just pause there for a second. So a lot of these 45s, like you say, are maybe 300, aren't they? Maybe 300 copies, push maybe 500. Even some of the bigger labels, at most is 1,000. Isn't it? It's even some other, but not many. So I guess to try and get them into the US, it would be very difficult to work out where to send those 50 copies to the US or wherever. So that's probably why you weren't sort of seeing them too much. Do you think that's probably part of it?
Right. And I think for the most part, I mean, the money's in albums. Let's be honest. The money is in albums. You can press up an album. Ironically, I grabbed the most expensive one. You can press up an album and sell this thing for $30 without a problem. That's the Jay-Z.
Yeah.
And sell it for $30 without a problem. And how much did it really cost to press up the vinyl and package it all and whatnot?
Yeah.
It's relative to a 45, you're making way more margins, right? So record stores are buying that. And those are all official pressings. There's tons of them. They're easy to get to. Yep. So your record stores are buying those and they can get them all from like one big distributor, right? The 45s, let's be honest, they're a little more, what's the best way to put it? They're not as official as these other records. How about that?
Not always. I mean, yes, some labels, some of the reissue labels are. Other labels are perhaps not quite so official and don't even try to be official. Some of them,
and some you don't even know if they are, right? There's a lot of records I'm like, I don't even know if this was. I don't know. It's on vinyl, so it's real to me,
Yeah, exactly. And people will buy it, and it's the format. And it's a tricky one because we have had this conversation with several people, and at the end of the day, if a bootleg's going to be a bootleg, as long as it sounds good. Okay, but at the end of the day, there's no real money even in 45s. So even if you were making money, there's nothing really going to go to the artist because there isn't anything anyway.
Well, and to be honest, most of the stuff that we really like, the artist doesn't own the rights anyway. And I mean, I know they're going to maybe get a fraction, but most of that's just something that in the early 90s, especially, the artists were getting duped for their publishing and whatnot. They don't get a whole lot of royalty off that stuff. So But
Yeah, so I
anyway,
guess the reality is it would be the record companies or whoever owns the rights who would be getting anything, even if there was anything to get. You know, and I guess the other thing is it's mainly DJs. I know people collect 45s, but the vast majority, I think, of people who are buying these 45s are DJing. So in one sense, you're promoting the artist. You know,
exactly.
you're getting the name out there. You know,
It's kind of like
someone who's
when everybody was mailing me records for free. It's almost the same
yeah,
thing, except they're not even having to do any work.
yeah,
But it's still getting like, what is this? Oh, I can now stream this
yeah.
or buy this on iTunes, and now maybe the artist is getting a little something, right? But it's
Yeah,
almost
exactly.
almost this.
That's that. I guess that is the point. We play 45s. I play 45s, and everyone else does. A lot of people watching might not, but they
Right.
might go and find the artist and, like you say, listen to it on Spotify and get pennies or whatever they get from there. But it's sort of promoting the same, and it's the same as going to a club, isn't it? And playing a record, and someone then going out and buying it or downloading it or whatever. So it's a yeah, it's a difficult conversation, but I think ultimately the artists do gain probably
Yep.
from the fact that at least their music is out there and at least people are listening to it and playing it.
Yep. So yeah. So it's all about I love the little format and
Yeah,
being able to go somewhere and take your records. And I've just started. I've DJed now. I don't DJ a ton, but once in a while I'm starting to get into it more again.
yeah,
And so it's so nice to just have your box,
yes,
and go out and play your records. So yeah, so that's kind of how we've been going. And yeah, we're about 10 months strong now, 9 months strong.
yeah. So how's it going? So tell us a bit more. Obviously, you had people who you were buying specifically for initially,
Yeah,
but now
yeah.
it's a proper store, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically we're online only store, BUMRUSH45.com.
Yeah,
It also shows up as BUMRUSHVinylShop.com. And we're just getting good music from wherever we can, 45s from wherever. I try to support the artists, support the labels whenever possible, and just get good music. I was digging through all these websites trying to find records, and
yeah,
I wouldn't know about any of these records until I randomly saw them on these different sites. And I would dig, and then I would hit the guys up, and they're like, "Yeah, I want that." Well, they didn't have some of these guys. I mean, don't have time
yeah,
to go
yeah,
like that, And so I'm like the vinyl fiend that's not DJing out.
yeah,
So I'm kind of like almost curating what we're getting, but like, hey, you want this? You want this? And pulling those things in, and I'm like, okay, I think we've got something here, and let's do that for everybody. That's
It's and curating's a good word, and we've spoken about that before on the show in terms of one, curating a set if you're playing a set, two, curating raid events, and obviously a little bit about what I do in terms of curating mixes and getting people to do 45 mixes and come on shows and stuff. It's a case of you've got the time at the moment to sort of go looking for this amazing music, and then you can put it in one place where someone can say, okay, well, I would have missed that, or they might have missed it on Bandcamp, or they might not be able to get it from somewhere else, or like you say, the shipping from Japan or UK or Europe is just expensive. So it's great that you've got a specific 45s format for someone to come and find this music.
right. You like 45s? Here's your one spot. Instead of buying from all these different places and paying, buying a $12 record here, but paying $6 shipping,
Yeah,
and buying another one here, you could have bought another record if you bought it in one place.
exactly. Yeah.
So that's kind of what we've been trying to get into and do. But at the same time, I'm now that I'm a store, I've set up all these relationships with different
Yeah,
artists, labels, and distributors. So now I don't even have to go looking as hard, because now they're letting me know, hey, this is coming out. All right, yeah,
yeah,
let me get some of those. Hey, this is coming out. Yeah, let me get some of those. So it's actually making it a bit easier.
yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
I guess it's like if you were running a bricks and mortar shop, you'd have, in the old days, you'd have the reps, wouldn't they? The reps would turn up and say, "We've got this," and so it's getting a name for yourself, and then people approaching you.
and I'm still digging like hell too. Don't get me wrong. I'm
Yeah,
finding, when I find something crazy, I'm like, all right, how can I contact them? This record is great. Um,
And is it all new stuff, or are you going to sort of move into secondhand?
I don't think I'm going to do secondhand at all.
Okay. I suppose you've
Secondhand
got
has
Discogs.
there's too much.
Yeah.
First off, secondhand you only have one record.
Yep.
Because each thing is individual. It's been used, so now you've got to grade it, figure out how it. There's too much of that. If it's new,
Yeah.
it grades mint.
Yeah.
So if it's new, then it's good, and if it's new, I can buy, instead of buying one copy and selling it to you, I can buy 30 copies and sell it to various folks.
Yeah.
So it also helps make the shipping and that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Because one of the obviously part of the 45 Kings group and 45 Day, and a lot of people we do it in a very small scale. There's some people here who will say, right, I want to buy this record. Okay, who else? And occasionally, not very often, but someone will buy, say, 5 copies, and we'll all sort of put in and again share the shipping. But that doesn't happen a huge amount. It happened with Mr. Lob's recent record that got released. I think you've got it in the shop, haven't you? So again, Fat Wax was the sort of UK distributor effectively of that. So it's similar sort of thing. But I can't think of anyone who's doing it in the same way in the UK, in the same way that you're doing it yet. So maybe. Maybe you need to link up with someone.
Yeah, to be honest, in the UK, from what I've seen, first off, most of the records are from the UK nowadays.
Yeah,
or somewhere in Europe, and I think there's a couple shops, and I won't name any specifics, but there's a couple shops that kind of own the market a bit. Because they have their low margins, and you can't compete with them.
Yes,
your neighborhood record store cannot compete with them on an online scale, from what I've seen.
Definitely not. No.
So. Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing prices, and I'm like, how do you sell a record and make $2? Like, you can't compete.
No, exactly. And the margins have always been very difficult with record shops, and it's interesting because obviously I've been to a lot of record shops, and a lot of them seem to be going the bricks and mortar ones. They are a record shop, but they're also a cafe, or they're also a bar, or also they're a vintage shop, or they're something else, because they need that balance to get people through the door. But also the margins on certainly new records is not huge, is it? So you've got to sell a lot of records. I guess without the bricks and mortar side of it, it becomes a little bit easier, but it's still hard. One of the things we've also talked about is the price of 45s, because they are still going up and up and up. Yeah. Do you think there is a ceiling? Do you think there's a point where people will say, I'm not paying? We've had guests before here, and they've said, okay, certain website that sells records gets to about £20 or maybe even £30 for a Japanese pressing. They're like, I'm not going to pay that. Do you think there is a ceiling where people will say, I'm not paying that for a new 45?
I think it depends on the record.
That's very true. I think certain records you would pay it, but I think you sort of maybe you re-edit or
those Japan hip hop records.
Yeah,
that are high quality, with full picture sleeves, and
yes.
and I'm talking about the EPMD, Gangstar, Rakim, Diamond D that have been out, Redman that have been out of late. Those are high dollar records, but if you want it, you've got to pay.
Yeah,
and it's hard as a retailer, because I don't want to charge that much, but it costs that much to get the record.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's supply and demand, isn't it? I guess.
It's like peanuts being added to it.
Yeah.
So it's I think it depends on the market. It depends on what it is. I think one thing that's interesting is when you only press up 200 or 300 for the artists. Sometimes I think the artists are catching on to this a bit more, and it's fine. But the artist has to charge a little more to be able to actually make the money on the record to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, it depends on what you're pressing it for. But if you're pressing a record and then you're going through a distributor and they're getting their cut, and we're talking a $15 record, like there's still not a lot going back to the person who put it out.
No, definitely not. So, as Air Adams says, his salary has a ceiling.
That's true.
It's very, very true, isn't it? It's very true.
Well, I think it's still a supply and demand thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
If it's a damn good record, you might pay $30 for it. If it's a half-ass record, you might, hey, that record's cool if it's $10.
Yeah.
If,
and I guess the other thing I found, and I think a lot of us in the 45s, is the sort of fear of missing out if you don't buy it initially, and then you go to buy it somewhere else on Discogs or somewhere else, and it's twice the price or something ridiculous. And it's crazy, but that comes back to, you know, do I really need that record at twice the price of what it was last week? Or
exactly.
you know, it's a tricky addiction we've got, you know. It's a tricky addiction. Okay, cool. So you've talked a little bit about how you sort of got into linking up with people. So what's that been like then, sort of, you know, getting into the community and finding out how, you know, what the 45s community is like?
Yeah, it's been great, man. Everybody's been super cool. Been dealing with a lot of the DJs that put out these records, a lot of the edit. I like to call them the edit kings. The gems and the double A's and the flip outs and some of those guys, the Dusty Donuts guys. Everybody's super cool. Yeah, it's been nice, man. Just being able to talk music and, you know, hey, what do you think of this thing and that thing, and check this out, and, you know, just kind of sharing our love for the music and seeing what other people are into, and then it takes you down another rabbit hole, and all of a sudden, you know, you're getting more into this thing that you never knew of. So yeah, I'm for example, I'm like the biggest Nautilus fan on earth, I think.
Of course,
Which is the Japanese band out of or
Yeah.
the Japan band. That's a Japanese jazz band that's put out all kinds of 45s. Actually got to chop it up with Toshi, the drummer, a week ago. Last week he was in town, so
Nice.
we kind of chop it up with him and like just kind of building with folks, you know.
It's been amazing how friendly and supportive everyone has been, you know. And I don't know about your experience, but there's been, well, very little, if any, sort of negativity, you know, or anyone who's not down with it. You know, pretty much everyone who I've met sort of along the way has been really cool, supportive, you know, wanting, or, you know, building up everything together, you know, because we're all in this together, you know, at the end of the day. Has that been your experience? Is that what you found as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, everybody's just been real cool and uplifting, like you said. I think a lot of the guys are all, it's not all 20-year-olds that are into this.
Yeah.
And so I think we have a different mindset than we had when we were in our 20s and low 30s. And we're all in a decent place where, you know, we know what we like, and we, you know, we have a certain respect for people in general. That we may not have shown back 15, 20, 25 years ago. I don't think it would have been necessarily the same if we were all 25-year-olds.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think. I think the sort of competition, or the, you know, dog eat dogs sort of thing doesn't really exist. You know, at the end of the day, yes, everyone's building and everyone's doing their own thing, but we've all got our own little niches and our own little areas, and I think everyone respects that, which has been really good. Let's talk about Twitch a little bit. Sorry, go on.
Twitch thinks you can do that. You can now take that niche that you've had, even within the 45s. You've got this certain thing that you like. You can do it different than what someone else does, and you're not having to cater to the club crowd or the like. I'm gonna go play a wedding, so I have to play this. I'm gonna go play a club, so I have to play this. It's like, I'm on Twitch and I'm gonna play what the fuck I want to play, and if you like it, then join us.
Exactly. And if you don't like it, there's another 100 channels you can go and hang out with, you know. But yeah, that has definitely been the thing, and it's amazing that everyone's got their own space, that they can play whatever they want, even within the 45s community. But yeah, so how did you find Twitch? You know, how did you come across it? Were you a gamer or not?
I didn't. This whole pandemic thing, I didn't even realize it was there for the most part.
Okay.
So, like I said, my homie Al, we started buying stuff, and he's like, "Hey, I got these two other guys that are interested in getting in," and it was Selecta and DJB.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then I'm like, try to hit them up, and they're like, "I'm sorry, I'm DJing right now." I'm like, "Dude, it's 8 a.m. How are you DJing?" And that's when I realized what's going on. Like, they do morning shows on Twitch.
Amazing.
You know, and so like that's kind of how I then transcended in to learning and meeting all these other folks through the Twitch channels. So
because I guess it is strange, isn't it? Because we've spoken about it on the show before. You know, if the pandemic hadn't happened, I don't think any of this, there might have been a little bit. There was DJs doing a little bit of stuff on Twitch before, but the gigging DJs, the professional DJs, wouldn't have thought, right, why don't I just go and stream, 8 o'clock in the morning, like you say, or in the afternoon, and it's interesting that they've all carved out another career, effectively, another side to their career. And like you say, DJing at 8 o'clock in the morning, that would be unheard of. Because they're normally in the club till 3, 4 a.m. or whatever. They're not going to be up at 8. So it's been interesting to see how the careers have sort of changed. And now it's part of it. They haven't just stopped. A lot of them are still doing it, which is great.
Right. And I think a lot of them have now been able to get pickier about what they do. They've now been able to say, I do this thing on Twitch. I do it a little in real life.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this other thing that I don't really enjoy as much anymore, because I have these other avenues now. So now that things have opened back up, they might not go do a certain type of event that they used to do like that, and I think that's been a big thing, actually.
And it's given them freedom, hasn't it? In a way to, like you say, pick and choose what they want, and that's definitely a good thing. It's definitely a good thing, and also it brings a completely new audience as well that they wouldn't have otherwise had access to, because the people who are on Twitch or watching on Twitch, firstly, it's global, so those global viewers in the UK, Europe, wherever, wouldn't be coming to their gigs in the US. So it still blows my mind as to what what's happened the last 2-3 years.
Well, and I think you got these DJs now that are also growing themselves as well. Because they're able to now play that type that they like, and see the reception they get from it. So now they're more likely to go digging for that thing that they didn't really have as much time for before. And so it's kind of helped them grow. It's helped them talk about mental health. It's helped them enjoy what they do a bit more. It's helped them be happier and have this community,
Definitely. And as Adam says, Twitch might not replace the earnings from some of the other things DJs might do, but in terms of freedom expression, there's no comparison. That's it's that freedom, and like you said earlier, you can just play whatever you want. People like it, they hang out on your channel. They don't like it, they go somewhere else. And and there's constantly, the other thing that always surprised me is, when certainly in the UK, when lockdown was ended, we thought, okay, that's going to be the end of it. People aren't going to be tuning in anymore. They're going to be doing other stuff. But it hasn't been like that. It has just sort of carried on, and new people come in, and every time you stream, someone new comes into a stream that you've never met before. It's amazing that it's still going.
In some ways it might have slowed down a little. Instead of streaming every day, folks are streaming 3 times a week, that kind of thing. But I think then what ends up happening is, then the folks that like tuning in make it more of a point to tune in, because now it's like, oh, he's on today, let me check it out. So now I'm in there when you're on, instead of before where I might miss your set some. Right now I'm in there more because you don't do it as often. So it's almost more bang for your buck.
There is. Okay, cool. Let's talk about one more thing then. You're in the US, obviously the date and the month is different. Obviously here in Europe, it's the 4th of May, 45 day. That's how we do it. I meant to look into this. I don't know why it's the other way around, but it's obviously some reason.
The US, every form of measurement. Okay. We apparently at some point, maybe when we started yet long ago, we decided we wanted our own damn thing, apparently. And so dates, of weight, temperature, length, every single measurement that we use is unlike anyone else. And it drives me a bit crazy.
It's funny because I have, people have in the past approached me like, oh, why are you doing 45 day on the 4th of May? Why aren't you doing it on the 5th of April? And it's like, well, because I'm in the UK. And they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense now, And
the rest of the world does it like that.
Pretty much, yeah. I think Canada's the same, isn't it? I think Canada's the same. But I think everyone else. But let me just see if I can get the flyer up. I think I've got it in the right format.
And then there's going to probably be a little tweaks. It looks like we got a couple changes, but as far as time,
okay,
cool. You can share the flyer, and it'll definitely have the lineup. I'm super excited. We do have a lot of US DJs, but I'm glad to have some folks international. Actually, a good number of folks international.
Let me see if that works. I think.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah. So obviously, my main man, Sam Tweaks. Kicking it off, first 45's DJ to become a partner, I believe, on or 45's only to become a partner on Twitch. And then we've got DJ D and DJ Robert Smith, who were on the show just last week.
I'm super excited about their set.
This week.
Yeah, it was just a few days ago, I think.
It's just a few days ago. It's gone crazy, yeah. And interesting. I was watching. I don't know if you caught any. You did. I think you were there, weren't you, briefly last night for the birthday boys, Mark Hypes. Yeah, I couldn't sleep, and then I sort of put Twitch on, and I realized they were streaming. I wasn't sure they were going to stream it, but yeah, that was. I mean, Jerry was amazing.
I got to give it to you guys, man. Overseas, you guys go late. I can't hang. I'm like, I'm going to bed, and I'm like, they're still rocking, and they're like 5 or 6 hours in front of us.
I'm not normally up that late. Very occasionally, if I'm working or if I can't sleep, I'm up. But I know Sam's been up late and stuff. But yeah, I think they went till 7 a.m. The Germans last night in Berlin. It was crazy.
But
and then obviously
about that set, because D and Robert Smith, and I don't know if everyone else does, but D and Robert Smith are going to be in the same room for the first time ever.
Yes,
and they're rocking. I talked to D earlier. They're rocking 6 turntables.
I know. It's gonna be amazing, and it's so, like we were talking about on the show. It's so strange to think that I put everyone together on a talk show, and then it's sort of gone from that to them being like best friends, basically, from the other side of the world. And yeah, it's great. I'm definitely going to make it to Berlin one day, and hopefully I'm going to make it to Australia and see them all. But and then I don't know. So you said there might be a couple of changes, but have we still got bus crates playing?
The lineup is the same. It's just going to be the order is going to probably switch
up. Okay, cool. All right, so we've got bus crates. Amazing DJ.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we've got Les the DJ as well, who's also an amazing. Les the DJ's
great. She's actually local to me, so I actually got to.
Okay. Oh, DC. Yeah, of course.
Yep.
Yeah. Mark Brand as well. It's interesting because a lot of these people have already been on my show as well, which is great. Yeah. Sam's been on, D and Robert Smith. I was trying to organize bus crates. We haven't quite managed it yet. Les has been on, Mark Brand's been on, and then we've got Selector, Jay Finesse, Flip Out, and then me, and then DJ B.
And I like yours because I don't know if you realize this. Of course, it's the U.S. time, but you have 4 to 5.
Yeah.
45 day. You have 4 or 5.
It's worked out quite well. It's worked. I like meta. I like hence why the show this morning was the 45th episode of All Back to Mine, and I stopped it at 45 episodes. DJ B, of course, legendary. Boogie Blind, Be the Flame. Yeah, Radu, Redmatic, Epic, of course. It's legendary DJs.
I was talking to Red. I think this is the first time Red's doing an all 45 set on Twitch.
Wow.
So I'm really hyped about that. Everybody always brings it. These are some of a lot of these guys are those original 15 that I was working with before. So they've been down since day one, and just excited to have a dope lineup. I mean, it goes all damn day.
It's amazing, yeah, and it's good that there's space on Twitch, because it is getting busier, but there still seems to be enough viewers and enough fans to sort of keep all these raid trains going. It's a case of sort of trying to get it off of Twitch. This is what I'm sort of working out at the moment. I'm starting a podcast quite soon. It's trying to get it to a slightly bigger audience, because a lot of people still don't know what Twitch is. Like you say, you yourself, you didn't really realize what was going on till sort of relatively recently. But if we can get people who perhaps listen to podcasts or maybe listen to the radio to come over to Twitch,
right?
I think once they're there and see the interaction and being able to speak directly to the DJ and sort of the chat, I think people can then see, okay, there is something really cool here going on.
Right. It's how do you do that, and how do you get the folks over?
Yeah, we've got a raid. Here we go. We might have to put that poster back up again, actually. We've got the raid from the Sunday Get Down. Big shout out to the Sunday Get Down. And welcome in, Raiders. Welcome in. We got Kev Clark. We've got Badge Whipple. We've got Moose Star. We've got the Sunday Get Down. Funky Feline. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Double P. We might have to start the show again.
All right.
There's a few more things we can talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking. Thank you for coming in, Raiders. We were just talking about Wednesday, which is, let's put it back up again. There you go. So we've been talking about 45s. We've been talking about the record store, BUMRUSH 45s. We've been talking about buying 45s, playing 45s. And this is effectively the sort of US version of 45 Day that's happening on Wednesday. So I hope a lot of you can join us. And yeah, so I'm talking to Shaw from BUMRUSH 45. So for anyone who obviously has just joined us, let's have a little recap of the store. So just very briefly, how did the store come about, and what does it promote?
Yeah, so basically we're all 45 shop out of the US, and we are pushing everything that's dope and on 45. You know, pretty much everything that's I'd say rock is about the only stuff we don't really carry. If it's 45 and it's got soul, then we're hopefully going to have it, and try to support those that put those quality records out. Coal
Definitely.
Mine.
I mean, that's the great level. So yeah, tell us some of the labels that you've got linked up with, because obviously you explained that originally you were going out and sourcing 45s for other people who, you know, didn't have the time to go and look at these websites. But then you said that now labels now approach you, or artists approach you. So talk about some of the labels that you've got connections with.
So we get we do a lot. We do Coal Mine. A lot of cool soul stuff is coming out of the US. Coal Mine, we do Big Crown. They've had a lot of really good records lately. Even like every week there's some really great 45 they drop.
Yes.
We do a lot with Fat Beats, F Spot, which I think is kind of on the come up. I think they've been putting out lately.
I was going to say, we've got a couple of Big Crown here that I played, and Arlo this morning, who was on the show this morning, played the Black Thought one, the R. Michael's Affair, and I've got the Lady Ray. But yeah, I mean,
Lady Ray remix is great.
Yeah, it's a brilliant label, as is Coal Mine, as is all those labels.
Yeah. So who else? A lot of stuff. We're getting Star Creature in the US. We put out some. We do there. We just recently started carrying the Daptone and Penrose labels.
Yeah.
So that kind of soul stuff. We do Mass Appeal.
Okay,
Kind of the deal I got straight with them. We're pretty much the only spot that has their stuff when it first drops. They'll have it on their site, and we'll have it on our site, and that's about the only place you can buy it for a little while until it gets out distribution wise. So some of your European shops are saying, you know, they still have it out for pre-order, but we've had those Oz and J Electronica records for a while. We deal with Get On Down some when it's not something that's like exclusive to them. That's I guess that's the big US. Some of the big US.
I guess it makes it easier, but you know, being based in the US, I guess you're going to get access to that. I mean, what always surprises me here in the UK is I don't know how many they're pressing, but Coal Mine and Daptone, they're still really reasonable to buy here. You know, they're still pretty cheap compared to other stuff. You know, I go to my local record shop, Rare Kind, and they're like there for like, you know, £9, £8, £9, £10, which, you know, for these days. So it's. I don't know how many they're pressing. I assume they must be pressing some decent quantities. They've got
to be pressing a lot, but I mean, like I've got those records for $10 on our site.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's
crazy. Yeah, that's probably about £8, isn't it? Something like that. So
something like that. So it's amazing how some of those labels are able to do it.
Yeah.
And let's see,
Kev Clark's saying that they need Mass Appeal to reissue Rocket Fuel.
I've been pushing for that.
Yeah.
I've been giving them way too many ideas. We'll see if they pick up on any of them, but they're kind of my sounding board when I have a good hip hop idea, or see something they've worked on. Like, hey, you guys need to put this out.
But that's part of the collaboration, isn't it? And part of the working together. At the end of the day, you know, if you give them an idea and they go off and do it because you know it's going to sell and you know your clientele is going to want to buy it and play it, then you know. Robert Smith said this phrase to me, you know, and it's something that's used across the world, you know, but each one helped one. You know, you're helping them, they're helping you, we're helping each other, you know, so it's a good thing, isn't it?
Exactly. And my biggest push, and maybe somebody will do it, but I'm not going to shut up until I see it.
Okay.
I've been trying to get somebody to put out a Illmatic box set.
Oh,
that's like the one that I'm like, every time I can mention it to somebody that deals with that, or it's Nas or Sony or whatever, that's like, hey, y'all need this. Anyway, some other
It needs
label.
to be pressed proper. I know in the past there's been certain box sets that haven't been pressed necessarily as good quality as they could have been. But yes, that would sell. That would sell, definitely.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if that ever happens. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But it's good that you've got these connections,
Yep.
you know, that you can have these conversations and see, because you never know what's going to come out of it, do you?
Exactly.
Now, here's a question for you. You talked earlier about putting out your own record back in the day. Do you think you'll get to the point where you might start putting out 45s?
I don't know. I will hope to.
Yeah.
I hope to. We'll see. Kev, hit me up. We can work out a shipping deal, Kev.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. You know, I'll be honest. A lot of the stuff that we move, there's either already a label that's putting that stuff out in the U.S. or the artists are overseas or wherever. So it just kind of depends. But I'm definitely open to it in the future. You know, I'm trying to get, you know, the site and the store as tight as it can be. I think we've made extremely good progress for only being 9 months old. And kind of getting our name out there, and you know, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a one-man show. So
Tell me about it. I know what it's like. Being a one-man show, it's hard work.
Yeah, so I'm a one-man show with a day job. So
yes, exactly.
We're just trying to get the records to the people, you know.
Yeah. But it's people are also then buying into you, aren't they, as a person, and that's certainly what I found. You know, obviously it's mainly me doing it. You know, people do stuff and help me out, but they're buying into the brand, the BUMRUSH brand, you know, the 45-day brand and all the rest of it. And it's investing in something, and it's the same with all the Twitch DJs, isn't it? You know, people invest their time watching the DJs, and obviously if they can, they're subscribing and, you know, bits and you know, following and sharing and all the rest of it. So it's been amazing, really.
And what I kind of feel like is with it, I'm open about what I like and what I like to carry, and you can kind of see it. With some of these other stores, you don't really know what they're about because they're a big store. They post certain things you don't see. You know, you don't see anything going on. Like, I'm kind of hey, here's a good record. You know, I want to share it. Whether you buy it from me or buy it from somewhere else, I want you to know there's this dope 45 that just came out, you know. And
it comes back to curation, doesn't it? You know, you're curating your shop, and yes, the bigger shops, you know, carry everything, you know, and obviously they sort of then get people to curate with charts and stuff, but it's not quite the same. I don't think it's quite the same. And obviously I see what you do on Instagram. You know, you'll say we've got this 45 in, or this box set, or whatever, and you know, it gets it out there, and you hear a snippet and you hear it in real life and see it in real life, and you're like, yeah, I like that, you know, where can I get it? So it's really important what you're doing, I think, you know. And one
thing that's different that we do, or I do, we don't do pre-orders.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think there's hardly anybody in the online game that doesn't do pre-orders, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I hate pre-orders because you never know when the damn record's gonna show up.
That's very true.
So if we put the record up, I either have it in my hands or it'll be here tomorrow, literally. Like, and so that's kind of how I roll. I don't put stuff up until it's in my hand. I've been burned too many times by some of these other stores. I once waited a year for a record.
Wow.
And then it didn't come. I literally had it like delay another month, delay another month. And then after the year, when I'm waiting on my freaking order forever because I want this record, hey, sorry, we got shorted. And I didn't. So so I'm all about, you know, I don't want to pre-order unless there's a way to do it in a responsible manner. But all too often, like, I don't know when it's coming.
Yeah, and a couple of points. Kev Clark saying that, you know, even if he can't order from you, he's in the UK as well. It's great to get the heads up on Instagram about a record that's coming out. And that point you're making is very true, because I was talking to Ewan from Rare Kind Records in Brighton, and they don't do pre-orders either for the same reason. You know, they're like, if we're going to sell it, we need to have it. And something that's happened to me, and I'm sure other people, you might pre-order something on Bandcamp 3-4 months ago. You forget about it. It comes out on a shop, you buy it, and then suddenly you've got 2 or 3 turn up, and you're like,
you
oh
gotta
god,
get rid of them.
yeah, I can't believe, I forgot that I ordered this 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
So I guess for some artists, I get it. If an independent artist needs to raise the money to get the pressing or whatever, I get it. But I think shops themselves and stores, I think they should really have it in stock. Like most things, you have it in stock, you sell it. It's sort of simple, isn't it? And I know Kev Clark's laughing, so I'm sure.
Yep.
I'm
so
sure.
What I try to do is I try to share what's coming. That's kind of I'll share out, like on IG. I'll throw out, hey, this is coming soon, so you can hold off. But I don't like putting it. I'm not going to sell it until I have it.
Yeah, definitely. Right, a couple of final things. You, I think, mentioned that you might be streaming soon.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm starting to get some stuff together. I would say maybe this summer, maybe we'll be able to kick something off. I don't DJ. I'm more of a selector.
Yeah.
So and I say that because a lot of the guys that I'm dealing with on our raids are like killing it,
Proper
and I'm
DJs.
like, I can do that, So yeah, we'll probably start streaming sometime soon. I recently, it's funny, I've got my tables in here, but it's always so cramped in here. I don't always feel like I want to spend like that on them. So I did just get a Rain 1, and shout to Scratch Attach. I got my Scratch Attach on the way, so I can start playing
for the
tone arms.
Tone arms. I've forgotten the word. Yeah. That looks pretty cool. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'm like, so maybe we'll once I get that all set and get a little setup going, maybe we'll start playing some.
Yeah, and I think, coming back to being a selector, I think again Twitch has got everyone on there. You've got your selectors, you've got your professional DJs, you've got your bedroom DJ, you've got your DMC turntablists. There is a space for everyone, and because it's all good music, it doesn't matter. Everyone has got a space, and everyone has got a channel, and everyone has got that.
And I'll focus, if I do it, I'll probably focus a little more on new stuff. Yeah, that's what I got. I'll probably show off some of the, play a lot more new stuff, that just came out or things like that. Kind of let folks see what's just coming out. Some of that kind of things.
Yeah, and again, it's sort of promoting the music that's coming out, promoting the labels, promoting the artists, and equally at the same time promoting, BUMRUSH45. I've got to ask the name. How did you come up with the name?
I was DJ BUMRUSH.
Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. Yeah. No problem.
So and the whole thought behind that in the late '90s when I started DJing was that whatever I do, I kind of go full steam.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how that came about. And it was just kind of, it's always been like a hip hop word.
Yep.
BUMRUSH the show. Different songs that talk about BUMRUSH. It's almost always a hip hop record, and so I always felt that that's a very hip hop word, and it's kind of how I take the 45s. Like I'm kind of going all in, and I'm trying to find it, whatever we can get and bring it all in one spot. So I felt like it kind of fit. Kind of go full steam ahead. So
that makes sense. Kev Clark saying irritable bowel syndrome. But yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna have a quick look and see. Thank you so much again, Sunday Get Down for the raid. We're gonna have a look and see who we can raid out to. I can see you've got a few box sets up there, and I think I asked if you had anything interesting 45s wise that you could show us, either something rare or something a bit unusual. So I don't know if you want to have a quick look and see if there's something we can have a look at while I'm just seeing who we can raid to.
Box sets. What do we got? We got the Mary J box set.
Oh, that's nice. That is. Yeah, I haven't. That's not one I've got, but that is very nice.
The two tribes.
Yes.
Tribes.
Yeah.
What else is up here? We got the Jay-Z book.
Oh, that looks nice. I think I've seen. Oh,
Magna Carta. It's got art and with the 45s.
That is really nice.
So, yeah,
you wouldn't want to play any of that though, would you?
I know, right? Like
it's a proper work of art, that one.
And if I remember correctly, I think that was the album. And let me see if I have it real quick. I think that was the album that had a 45 hidden in it.
Oh yes, I've seen. Yeah, was it you that posted about that on? There
Like
you go. You cut it out, don't you? Yeah. Hold on a second. Let me just solo you.
I had to rip it open because they
Right.
have 45 built into the packaging.
Yeah, that's right. I remember seeing that, and that's yeah. It's a shame you have to destroy the artwork to get to the 45, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah, so, you know, we got different ones. All
Oh
caps.
yes.
When you spell the man name.
Yep.
And of course,
that's what you said to me about the spelling of your store as well.
Yeah, exactly. The store, all caps. When you spell the store's name. Yeah. The Primo box sets, we have these in stock right now. I think we're one of the only places that have it. Yeah, so different ones. You know, just some different fun stuff. Shout out to Daptones, Sharon Jones.
That's another great one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you're gonna need a bigger shelf soon.
I am. I'm still trying to find old stuff too that I missed out on.
Yeah.
Because you know how it is, you snooze, you lose, man, and then you're like paying double or
exactly.
Yeah,
that was that thing with the tribe. It was I just started a new business, so I didn't have any money to buy it, and then I was watching all these people buying it, and I was I missed out on it. But now it's just it's just too much. It's one of those things. Right, I'm just going to set the raid. We got Global Groover is streaming, so we're going to raid over to them. Let's make sure I've spelt that right.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think, but it's been great. Thank you so much. Thank you once again for the invite to the. Let's put that up one more time to the BUMRUSH45 raid event. Cheers to Air Adam for being there throughout, and thank you to Sunday Get Down for the raid. If you missed the show today, I want to catch up on it. It will be on YouTube and also be on Mixcloud. And if you missed the show from this morning with Arlo, that's also I think that's also on YouTube already. Actually, I put that up already. But thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, and
thanks for always curating these things and keeping them where you can go back and see them. I don't think we curate enough and actually capture it.
Yes, well, I'll talk to you about in a minute. Once we've gone off air, I'll talk to you about that in a second. But yeah, it's been really interesting, great to connect, and as I said at the beginning of the show, great to sort of put a face to the name, and obviously the Twitch chat that we have, and yeah, keep doing your thing, and I'm sure it's only going to get bigger and bigger, and 45s are the way, definitely.
Sounds good, brother.
Take it easy. If you just hang on there for a second, we'll raid out.